It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of December 17th, 2004, the weekend before Christmas, of course, and we've got 6 big movies to look at, starting off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is, of course, Jim Carrey starring in Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. This is, of course, based off the famed book series of the same name by Lemony Snicket. But you have the story here. We have 3 children, Violet, Klaus, and Sonny Baudelaire, who are left orphaned when their house burns down with their parents inside of it in mysterious circumstances. They are left in the custody of a distant relative, Cousin Olaf, played by Jim Carrey, and it is soon apparent that Cousin Olaf only cares about the children for their large inheritance. And it's really hard to talk about this movie without comparing it to the Netflix series that came out not too long ago, and there are a lot of similarities to both, but honestly, if you saw the original Series of Unfortunate Events movie from 2004, you basically get what you saw in the movie, but in that show, I think it's a better quality, and there's a lot more to it. The original movie covered most of the first 3 novels, and the show covers the first 4 novels in 2-part episodes, and there are definitely a lot of similarities to the 2004 movie and the show. Most good. For one thing, I think Neil Patrick Harris is a much better Count Olaf than Jim Carrey is. Carrey's not bad in here in particular. I just think that Neil Patrick Harris is just a better Count Olaf, and I think he's much better than Jim Carrey, honestly. Like, I like a lot of more things from Neil Patrick Harris than I do Jim Carrey. Nothing against Jim Carrey by any means necessary, but if I had to pick between NPH or Jim Carrey, I'm picking NPH in this case. I think Patrick Warburton is a much better narrator in the series than Jude Law is here. By the way, we're gonna wrap up the final 2 movies that he's in. So for 2004, so stay tuned for that. But Warburton, I think, makes the narration much better than what Jude Law does, because in this movie he's basically just being Jude Law, and he's just sounding way too melodramatic. And Warburton, I think, just makes it better because he has that such distinctive voice that just makes him stand out much more than somebody like Jude Law does. The 2 kids in this, they're played in the TV series by Milana Weissman and Louise Hides. I think they're much better actors than Emily Browning and Liam Aiken, which, a lot of the actors in here in the show were pretty much better than the actual movie. I think the visual look of the series fits more in tune with the books. The movie, it has those darker colors and visuals to it, but too many of those lighter scenes. Like, there's really a contrast between the books and the way the movie plays those scenes. I think the scripting in the show works a lot better than the movie did, mostly because you have the book's writer writing a good majority of the series, so it sticks more to the intentions of the book. So, yeah, needless to say, I think the Netflix series is definitely a lot better, and this is probably more of appraisal of the Netflix show than it is of the actual movie that came out this weekend. But the movie itself isn't bad. I'm just saying that if I had to choose between the movie and the book and the Netflix show, I'm picking the Netflix show over the movie. The movie isn't bad, but there's definitely a much better version out there, and it's on Netflix. You should go check it out, but like I said, this isn't a bad movie per se. Just not as good as the TV series is. So, with that said, let us move on to our next movie, and that is Adam Sandler, Téa Leoni, and Cloris Leachman in James L. Brooks' Spanglish. Yeah, definitely a movie where the acting really excels over the rest of the film, because the rest of the film is... Okay, it's not bad, but let's delve into the film itself. You have Paz Vega, who plays Flora Moreno, who's a penniless single mother of 1 who emigrates to Los Angeles from Mexico in high hopes of creating a better life for her 12-year-old daughter, Christina. However, after landing a job as a housekeeper for this laid-back gourmet chef played by Adam Sandler and his well-to-do family, she finds herself up against a daunting language barrier, and Deborah, played by Téa Leoni, and who's John's trouble, right? And little by little, as Flora struggles to start fresh and, of course, to learn English, an inevitable cultural collision is at hand when a burgeoning romantic affection starts to take over. And yeah, part of that, I cut the trailer just as her character comes into play in the movie, but she does play a big part in the movie in general, and she is really good in the movie. In fact, a lot of the actors in here are really good. You've got Adam Sandler giving another really good, solid, dramatic performance, something that's definitely outside of his norm. This is one of those movies that tries to prove, like with Punch Drunk Love, like, hey, I can do things besides stupid comedies, and yeah, he's really good in the movie. Téa Leoni, I thought, was very good in the movie. So is Cloris Leachman. Sarah Steele, I think, is pretty good playing the daughter of Adam and Téa Leoni's characters. The film itself, though, is just... It's got a good idea to it, just poor execution overall. You really can't tell what kind of a movie it really wants to be. Like, it wants to be a number of different things. Like, it wants to be this culture clash movie, but it also wants to have this message about this message that it really has a hard time figuring out what to find, and it really does hurt the movie in the long run. And it's a shame, because the pieces are definitely there. And for James L. Brooks, this is certainly a better movie than the last one he would direct, which would almost kill his directing career, until the movie he's just making recently, which is El McRae. I think that's what it's called. But you know, after what, 14 years since How Do You Know came out, he's back. He's making another movie again, which I'm glad to see that he is. But this was kind of the beginning of a downward spiral for him as a director. But yeah, I just don't think the movie had a good idea of what the sole message of the film was supposed to be. I think there's ideas of what it was trying to be, but it just can't figure out how to tell it in a very cohesive story that makes a whole lot of sense. It doesn't have that flow and ebb that James L. Brooks had with movies like the aforementioned, you know, Terms of Endearment, As Good as It Gets, or Broadcast News. It just feels like a movie that's trying to get by its performances, which, again, are the best things about the movie, but the rest of the film itself is just way too complicated to figure out, and it really hurts the ebb and flow of what they're trying to go for here, and it just takes away from the good stuff in it, and the good stuff in it is really good, but it's unfortunately muddled in the rest of the film, which is just a pretty bland, lackluster storyline that's trying to have a good message behind it, but it just can't really figure out how to say that message in a way that people can understand it, and it's unfortunate. It's a film that I think should have been done much better, considering who's directing and writing this, but unfortunately, it stumbles big time when it matters the most, and it just hurts the film big time, and yeah. Not much more to say about that one. That is Spanglish, so on to our next movie, which is the star-studded remake of The Flight of the Phoenix. Let's talk about this movie. I wish we could talk about all those other movies I mentioned, because, man, this is not a good movie. Flight of the Phoenix, which is a remake of the 1965 movie of the same name, both of them based off of a novel of the same name, in which you have a group of people who survive an airplane crash in the desert and must build a new aircraft out of the old one to escape. You got Dennis Quaid, Giovanni Ribisi, Tyrese Gibson, Miranda Otto, Hugh Laurie, and the pre-supernatural Jared Padalecki among the cast involved in here. It's directed by John Moore, who gave us such classics as the 2006 Omen remake, Max Payne, and A Good Day to Die Hard. Not a good start, but we got the writer of Man on Fire, Scott Frank, and also Edward Burns. Yeah, this is, you can start to see where the problems come into play here. You got a bad director to start off with. You got a co-writer who has never written in Edward Burns, who's never written a big budget film like this before, and it's just like, what was the point here? Like, what was the point? It's like, how, and Scott Frank, by the way, these two never even met at that point, and these are three very different minds coming together, and when you have that many cooks in the kitchen, you better have something really damn good besides whatever the hell this movie was. Not helped by the fact that this movie had a ton of production problems behind the film. A ferry sank during the transportation of a major set piece across a river, forcing the river bottom salvage of the aircraft fuselage. Jared Padalecki actually flipped his vehicle, concluding the aerial film sequences, one of the planes actually suffered a long gash along the right wing where the film truck backed under it, and its driver misjudged the truck's height, and then a repair crew had to be flown in with a damaged segment reskinned and the aircraft flown back across the Atlantic. And then one of the cinematographers, Kieran Barry, was filming behind a plywood barrier intended to protect him from the equipment, and then an 800-pound fiberglass model plane propelled down an elevated track, bounced off a sand dune in the Nambian desert, and crashed into that hut. And he actually was awarded close to $4 million in damages for broken legs and neurological damage he received during the accident. Jesus Christ. Like, if that's not a sign of how much of a disaster this movie is, then quite frankly, I don't know what is. Because, man, I never saw the original movie, but I'm telling you right now, I'd rather watch the original movie than watch this piece of garbage again. This is a terrible movie that just feels lifeless. It feels like a generic-ass remake of an action movie. Like, not even a good action movie like the original probably is. It's like a lazy, poorly put-together action movie that just, you know, if you saw A Good Day to Die Hard, you pretty much have an idea of what this movie is. Like, the director, John Moore, clearly is a childish director. As somebody, if you've ever seen the behind-the-scenes footage from A Good Day to Die Hard, you can see that. Like, he does not feel like an action director that clearly knows what he's doing. Like, he's a director at hire. Like, he's somebody that the studio hires, make the movie. We don't care about it. We don't care if you're having a good talent or not. Just get it done, get it out there, and we'll make money off of it. And Dennis Quaid, man, you just couldn't have one bad flop in 2004. You had to have two bad flops in 2004. But hey, at least in a couple weeks, you'll have at least one good 2004 movie, your best one in general, within good company. But we'll get to that one eventually. But the cast here is really wasted in here. Giovanni Ribisi, I like him as a character actor as a whole. I like him as Sky Captain in The World of Tomorrow. I think this is just a wrong role for him in this. Like, I don't think he fits this role very well at all, and it really does hurt him in the long run. I like him as an actor, but here, he's just struggling way too hard here, and it's just, it's just not a good movie, man. The action sequences aren't that impressive. The characters aren't that memorable whatsoever. Too much shit is going on. Like, it's amazing how much they cram into this movie that's literally taking place in the middle of nowhere. Like, how do you do that? It's amazing to think that they were able to pull this off as badly as they did. But, lo and behold, that is what the Flight of the Phoenix is about, apparently. And, like I said, I haven't seen the original, but I'm really guessing right off the bat that the original is definitely the better film in general. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to some good movies. How about some really good movies? Oscar nominees, Oscar winners. Let's talk about the first one here. Martin Scorsese's The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio as Howard Hughes. A movie about an airplane that happened on this weekend that didn't suck. Of course, this is the story of Howard Hughes, based off the book of the same name that depicts the life of him, who was an aviation pioneer and the director of the film Hell's Angels, and portrays his life from 1927 to 1947, during which time Hughes became a successful film producer and aviation magnate who simultaneously grows more unstable due to severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. You got a cast that also includes Cate Blanchett, Kate Beckinsale, Ian Holm, John C. Reilly, Alec Baldwin, Jude Law, Gwen Stefani, Kelly Garner, Willem Dafoe, Alan Alda, Edward Herrmann. And it's one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. It's a movie that really elevates Leonardo DiCaprio's star power to another level. He just plays this role so well, and the film is just really good. It's a really engaging period piece movie. It's a really engaging biopic about the life of Howard Hughes. Finally, we get a good Howard Hughes movie after so many movies in the past that tried to do something similar to this and just kind of failed miserably at it. But this is a movie that does it very well because you got a good director in Martin Scorsese, you got a great writer in John Logan, and a great actor in Leonardo DiCaprio, who unfortunately didn't win the Oscar for Best Actor, even though he probably should have, but he did not. But then again, Jamie Foxx took that Oscar, and I think that's a better performance. But DiCaprio definitely deserved to be in that conversation. The film did win 5 Oscars, though. It was nominated for 11, including Best Picture and Best Director. It won for Cate Blanchett for Best Supporting Actress, and I think the other ones for visual effects and sound editing, I think. Let me see. Best film editing, okay. Yeah, I was close. Best cinematography, best film editing, best costume design, best art direction. So I was close on at least one of them. Hey, one's better than get one right is better than getting none, apparently. I'm going to say that, but yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio works very well in this role, and it shows how great of an actor he really was. And he was elevating his status as stepping away from being that pretty boy from Titanic and proving that, hey, the guy's got a lot of acting chops, and he makes it work here. Cate Blanchett's very good in the movie too. Kate Beckinsale, we've kind of smacked her around here a couple times with some of the bad movies she's been in. But this is a movie where she actually does show she's got some acting chops as well. It's a film that just is very entertaining, very visually pleasing to look at. It's a great period piece, a great story about Howard Hughes. Not much more to say about it, man. It's a really good movie that definitely deserves to be checked out. As does our next movie, the year's Best Picture winner, and that is Clint Eastwood's $1 Million Baby. Honestly, all I could say about $1 Million Baby is the same thing I could probably say about The Aviator. I mean, everything about this movie just works very well. You have a story where you have Clint Eastwood as this fight manager and cutman Jerry Boyd, and she is helping out this underdog amateur boxer played by Hilary Swank to achieve her dream of becoming a professional boxer. It also stars Morgan Freeman. It's written by Paul Haggis, which means that he'll have 2 back-to-back Best Picture winners at this point, because he'll have this movie and then he'll be the director of the movie Crash, which look, I like that movie, but I'm just going to tell you right now, before we eventually get to it, it shouldn't have won Best Picture. It should have been Brokeback Mountain, but we'll eventually get to that. We'll eventually dig ourselves into that one a little bit later on here, but $1 Million Baby is one of Clint Eastwood's best movies. It's a movie that you could tell really did deserve to win Best Picture. It's a film that is very engaging, features 3 solid performances from its leading stars, Eastwood, Swank, and Morgan Freeman. Both Swank and Freeman won Oscars for this. Hilary Swank won her second one. Morgan Freeman won her first one. And really, there's no you can see why they did, because they're all really good actors in here, really giving it their all. They're really great performances. The visual look of the film is impressive. The storytelling is well done. Just everything about this movie just works so well. And really, there's not much more I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said already. It's a great movie, really well made. Definitely one of the best Clint Eastwood movies. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check this one out, $1 Million Baby, as if you hadn't already. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Kevin Spacey as Bobby Darin in Beyond the Sea. God, I hate that Kevin Spacey has become the complete scumbag that he has 20 years after this movie, because, man, the guy really is giving it his all with this film. He's the co-writer, he directed the film, and he's also playing Bobby Darin. He's singing, too, as Bobby Darin. Like, so much of this movie should be working, and yet, kind of like with Spanglish, that's a great performance isn't the only thing that can carry the film over, and sadly, the results speak for themselves here. So in the film, Kevin Spacey plays Bobby Darin. It shows his rise to success in both the music and film industry during the 1950s and 1960s, as well as his marriage to Sandra Dee, played by Kate Bosworth. You'll also see John Goodman and Bob Hoskins involved in the cast as well. And the movie really, I mean, it's one of those. It's a typical musical biopic, and it's one of those ones that has now become the norm for most biopics. I mean, the best thing about the movie is Kevin Spacey, who really is the strongest thing about the movie. I mean, he's not only a great actor, he's a great singer in this movie. Like, he channels Bobby Darin so well with the songs in here. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie is your typical biopic dreck. I mean, it's the same type of film you see nowadays with stuff like Bohemian Rhapsody, the ones I've always mentioned, Back to Black, Bob Marley, One Love, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. A lot of it is in this movie. But unlike those movies, you could tell Spacey is at least trying, but I just don't think he had a good enough script to really work with here. I think he was just solely going with the notion that, he could save the movie on his own because he was that great of an actor back then. But of course, nowadays times have changed with him, and it's a shame because he really is he does a very good Bobby Darin in here, and I wish the rest of the movie would really live up to the great performance that's in here, but it just doesn't. It just really does not. And as good as I could say Kevin Spacey is, as good as I could say Kate Bosworth is, it's just not worth it to save it in the end. But, I mean, if you're going to look for the stuff to watch it online. Watch Kevin Spacey channel Bobby Darin because he does it so well in this movie. I just wish the rest of the movie could be just that, but unfortunately it isn't. So yeah, another disappointing movie indeed, Beyond the Sea. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll take a look at Christmas weekend 2004. 5 big new releases, including the comedy sequel, Meet the Fockers. We also have Kenan Thompson starring as Fat Albert. We have the Wes Craven-produced Darkness. We also have Joel Schumacher's version of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera. And Don Cheadle in Hotel Rwanda. So we'll take a look at those 5 movies all in the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.